Hey there, everybody. So today's editor thing is going to be continuation of the last one, which was just a QMB that was pretty basic that we pulled in for airplanes for. And on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to stick with the quick mission idea, but I'm actually just going to delete all of that. Yeah, I am. Because what we're going to do is we're going to remake the concept of the Fly Now mission that existed in Rise of Flight. So, Rise of Flight, if you guys played it, I probably said this already. If you haven't played it, you totally should. It's great. It's free. Of course, all the airplanes cost a little extra money, but two of the airplanes are free, and two of the most important ones. It's the same engine, basically, a little bit older, obviously, but the flight feels very similar and very, very, very good. So, they had these missions in there, one for each side, effectively, and you could take any airplane up on it. Where when you flew to certain areas, there were just certain types of targets. Like over here were some tanks, and over here were some trucks, and over here was some artillery, and over here were some aerostats, and over here were some. Right over the city of Lille, it would spawn fighters right at you, just one at a time. Though we're gonna do different. And south of you, a little ways, of where you took off a little ways, it would spawn two-seaters or bombers. So I think actually just two-seaters. I don't think they pulled in the Gotha or HP there. What we're gonna do here is kind of recreate that concept as really as quickly as possible. I think that if I was really to build this out with the depth that I wanted, it would probably take about 45 minutes. But so I might take a couple shortcuts because I'd like this video to be no longer than 30 minutes. So we pulled in our boneyard just like before. I deleted all those other units. I'm just going to go over these really quick again. Our phase gauge, some targets, some artillery. I'm going to actually go ahead and grab the artillery as we go through it. Just pull in one of them. That's going to give me both. That's going to give me one copy of like ground style artillery, Pack 40s or whatever, depending on which side you are, and one style of anti-air artillery setup. And they're actually kind of set up pretty well. They both have defenses against air and ground units in case something gets close to them. And they have a collection, a good collection of the different things. You know, like the Flak 37 hits very high and is designed for very high targets, and Flak 38 is for something considerably closer. So it has both of them in there. If those were Germans. So those are going to be 61s and, oh man, I always forget the name of this crap. Yeah, 61s and 52s. These guys. Because those are Russian. So then what we want to put in this mission is just a few different areas where things are. And we'll first grab, these are the abreast units, some tanks. We'll copy them over. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build up, without setting anything up, what I want to be in there, and then we're going to set it all up. And so for the tank section, I think I'm going to want, it's just going to be, what's inside these, by the way, for those that don't know, I'll just show you, is 14 tanks that are going to be active at a time for each one of these things I'm copying in. Some more details on what's inside these and stuff is in earlier videos, and I'm not going to go in too much depth here. I'm just going to show you really fast. But if we look in here, we'll see that we have two separate sections of 7 tanks, and this unit can continuously spawn these forever or just do one run of it. The idea is that these guys work together on a single task, and whether or not this group of 14 succeeds depends on whether or not these guys succeed. In this case, it really just means a few of them need to make it through their whole mission. There's like a setup where they kind of wait for each other and then bombard a target and make it, and then one of them at least needs to make it back. If all of them die, they fail. How you set win and lose conditions is really up to the person building these tiny little things, and that's just how I built them. If you want them differently, you can do so. You can do that yourself, and I'll be putting out more of them too. There's just 4 now: abreast, unit movement, column movement, air movement, and trains. For these bigger complex ones. And so the reason that I pulled in 3 of these is that what I want them to do is I want them to start here. I want this group to run first. And if this group succeeds, I want it to start this group. And if it fails, I want it to start this group. So that we can build up something that is beginning to be somewhat logical, even though this is just like that Fly Now. We'll just do this really fast here. I'm not going to change anything yet, except for what displays on the map. So what I'm doing is that this top one, this is in a previous video too, this top one is what shows on the map when the unit actually is active and has things in it. This bottom one is shown when the unit has been initialized, which is this button. These are the buttons for all of these. Activate, run, that just tells the units to go back home. Success, that tells them to go back home and report success no matter what they did. This one tells them to go back home and report failure no matter what they did. That's the way that you can chain success and failure conditions, also make them exist based on other things. Like maybe these guys are guarding something, and that something gets destroyed. Well, then guess what? They failed. Shutdown means totally go out of the system and take everything off the map once you're gone. And initialize is, it's just a little button you kind of got to hit at the beginning. This is something I kind of battled with maybe just using the mission begin. But I like this initialize because what this does is this puts this on the map, which says, hey, this guy's ready to go and it's on the map, but there are no units in play yet. And that's meaningful in a way that you'll see as soon as we're in mission. And I better stop talking to her about nonsense, or we're going to be doing this for a while. So all I'm doing is naming all these things so that they're the same, right? So these are our light tanks. If they win, they're going to put out heavy tanks, because that's what this mission does. This is... that's what's great about being a mission builder. You get to build anything you want. And this is intended, the system is intended to make building missions considerably easier. And not just easier, but also, like, meaningful. Like right now, and this really isn't a diss, but like the way that you build missions, you have to build very complex missions to do anything than just like have exactly the same thing happen every time. This will actually have different things happen even with this basic simplicity that we're going through. So on these guys, if they fail, they'll pull out anti-aircraft trucks, because that will give them defense against what they probably failed against, maybe. Cool. So I'm done setting that up for now. Seriously, we'll deal with the details of that in just a moment. See, then we probably want an air unit. Now, we're going to trigger this air unit differently, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. I'm going to have it so that the trucks are just going to start going right away, and they'll just be there. But I'm not going to have air units show up until you cross over a threshold over here, because that's how the Fly Now worked in Rise of Flight. You know what? That was actually one of the dumbest things about that mission. Because they just like popped in right where you were. This wouldn't do that, but why? Like, these things can run forever, so why don't they just run forever? Forget that. It's just going to start right at the beginning. Here, though, we are going to set up a different structure on how these things go together, and that where this one is a tree, success went this way and failure went this way. This one's just going to be a straight linked list, and it's just going to go to the next one no matter what. But we're going to start them randomly. You don't know where they're going to start. And the purpose of this is less to be... this means, so at the each time these guys finish, and they won't click any of these, none of these things will trigger. These are inputs, by the way. These are outputs, by the way. Just a refresher. None of these things over here on the right will trigger until the units are out of the mission. And they don't go out of the mission until they're in like a reasonable state. So it allows you to queue things up where like you're effectively creating mutexes. Only one of these is available at a time. So for this linked list concept, I'm just saying I don't care if it wins or loses, it goes to the next one. And that's really just to show you that you can do that, not that that's terribly reasonable. Now on the last one, I might want to trigger it right back to the beginning, but I don't. And the reason I don't is because I want to show you a unit that you haven't seen yet. And it's right here. And this dude is a random. It says Rando 4 because I actually also have a Rando 1, a Rando 2, a Rando 3, a Rando 7, a Rando... but this, whatever. The only one I'm actually including in this group is the Rando 4. The really big, by the way, people that pulled down the Boneyard is the core components. But these kind of things that I'm building up right now, I have a few very large ones built up that represent things like supply lines in entirety, an Air Force in entirety, an Army movement in entirety. And those guys will be put up in a bigger package called Automata. I just really need to do some cleanup on it. It's done, but it's done in a functional sense, but it needs a little bit of it needs a little love before I'm ready to release it. And that will have the larger randoms inside it. So the way that Rando 4 works is that you hit this trigger and one of these 4 hit randomly. This one, because of where I pulled it from, technically has a little bit of weight towards this third button. But we're actually going to keep that because it's for the same purpose. So we're going to say when this guy gets hit, if 1 or 4 gets hit, only one of those will ever be hit. It can be hit repeatedly, by the way. You can't hit it more than, I think, once every 750 milliseconds, but I think that's the only restriction. And you shouldn't be calling that many I mean, it's absurd to call that many random calls with this kind of thing anyway. Another thing to note of random, and this is something that I really want, this is probably one of the core things that I want changed in the engine more than anything else, is that random is terribly seeded. However you guys seed your random, however the system seeds the random, is that if you restart the mission in if you restart the same mission with the same random setup like this, like 3 or 4 times in a row, exactly the same result happens. Like, normally a random seed is something like milliseconds since something called epoch, and there's all kinds of random seeds you can use. You can just go to dev random on a real system. I think Windows doesn't have cool things like that. Terrible tangent, I'm sorry. C is a little bit more likely, and so what we're doing here is that we're saying whenever we're going to start this system, which we're going to start at the beginning, we're saying we're going to click random, and if 1 or 4 comes out, it'll start the first of these. If 2 comes out, it'll start the third of them in this list. And if C comes out, it'll start the middle one. And if the last of these gets put to triggers, it'll call random again instead of going back to the beginning. So like this is just kind of like a way of kind of like shuffling something up. Good for something like what we're doing here actually, which is just like a mission that isn't very meaningful. A more meaningful mission I think you should do more like we did with the tanks, where like their success means they get to pull in better tanks. That makes sense. Their failure means they need to pull in something defensive. That makes sense. You can, by the way, build out these structures in any way you want. They can be very heavily weighted towards one side. I always do it. It's not a requirement that since success is the top button and failure is the bottom button, that as you move up through the tree, you're succeeding more, and as you move down to the tree, you're failing more. Duh. The missions that a couple guys have played over the last few days had 6 groups of these, each of these with 7 inside of them instead of, see, this is 3, 1, 2, 3, and they had 7 inside of them, so they had one more layer with these 4 units right here. So you can really build it out any way you want, and this is obviously shown as a linked list. These guys will be, these are going to be enemy fighters, right? So black 3, enemy in this case. This is kind of funny. I'm actually normally a Russian flyer, but I really, 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 really love the 202. That's all I have to say on this. Let's make these yaks. And we'll make these, say, how about LA5s? Cool. And then I'm just going to straight up take this dude, copy it, all 3 of them, paste it, and this is going to become our 3-piece of exactly the same construction for 2-seaters. Obviously, we could include HE111 or PE2s in here if we want, and we're going to. In fact, that's exactly how we'll do it. So, build 2. If you guys don't remember from previous, I didn't say it on this one already. I don't really remember because I honestly tried to do this video just a second ago. And I just kind of jacked it up. Speaking of which, I really am truly ignorant to the world of Windows. I'm also ignorant to the world of Mac, because I'm a Linux person. So if anybody out there is knowledgeable about video editing, it seems like a lot of you guys actually really are. I mean, I've seen some truly amazing videos. I mean, specifically gameplay generally, but what do you guys use to edit? None of my videos have been edited at all, as you all probably know. Even that's seen it probably knows with extreme pain. Editing would these would benefit from some editing. And I'm going to call these IL2B. Just to show, normally I would actually give these things, way cooler, names that were close to, what they were doing. You know, like these might become tank attack, or like front line, or like Stromovic defense, or like something that's maybe closer to their purpose than necessarily their content. But for this kind of mission where we're just testing stuff, let's put these guys over here. Because the idea of the Fly Now is that these units are separate from each other, and that you can interact with them at your will by where you fly. And so that's kind of how we're going to do this. We're going to put fighters over here. They're going to fly right over the city. I might even leave them as boring. No, I'm not quite. I'll move them around a little bit. We got tanks right here. And then last but not least, we're going to pull in some column units. Hell, we'll put in a train too. The column behave like the tank-ish, in that it's 2 groups of 7, that they act independently. And by act independently, I mean like, okay, so like these guys are intended to be on the road together, these 7. If one of them dies, they stop. They all stop. But these guys don't stop. And if one of these guys dies, then these guys stop, but these guys don't. But they're doing the same mission, so these guys have to actually like bring enough supplies to succeed. But that's actually part of the reason that they're separate, is because it's very reasonable. The tanks, generally, those 2 separate units of 7 are just there so you can kind of have them move around trees or buildings in a cool way. The column, like this, are separate because column is often, definitely not always, I wouldn't even say just often, are like supply lines, and they're on the road. And there's a lot of reasons to have, and you could do cool things where like they're together. Well, that's not a good place to show that. They're together, and then one of the 7 goes this way, and one of the 7 goes that way. You can also do things, and I showed this on my last map on the Kalak battle, that they can take drastically different routes. Where one route was directly over that bridge into Kalak, which is of course terribly dangerous, and so they had another route that they were taking too, which was way longer, and so they wouldn't succeed anywhere near as often going the other route, but they were safer. And so you can really, that's one of the cool features of this system, is that one of the core metrics you use to modify what happens is the distance things travel, because the distance things travel is the time they take. And so if like one of the sides is just doing too good at something, you don't have to do anything complicated. You can just make them go a little bit further. You can just set their base back a little bit, and they're going to succeed a little bit less. It's a great way to tune. Very intuitive, very simple. Okay, so column, and we'll put in a train. Put the train in here. Just move the boneyard a little bit out of the way. So now we're getting pretty close. Let's see, the column will just be trucks. The train I don't even have to rename, because it's a train. Could rename it, but not gonna. And I'm not going to make multiple sets of columns, because columns you have to put on the road, and that just takes a little bit of time, and it's not beneficial to the demonstrative nature of this video to watch me put cars on the road for a long time. So I mentioned before, don't start anything until 10 seconds in. That's not a technical requirement right now, but there's something I'm thinking about implementing that would make that be a requirement. So what I'm hitting right now is all these things have to be initted. The reason that there is this init is so that things don't automatically display something on the map. By default, this init doesn't do anything but turn on the map components. And that's there because these constructs that we're building, you can actually like have multiple layers of in a mission, and that kind of makes phases. Like you can build whole phases of like different collections of units so that you can do something like all this stuff is going on together to make this one event occur. Like maybe it's the bombing of Luki here or something, and when that event finishes, by whatever conditions it finishes, it moves to the next phase, and then there's a whole nother group of units. These guys will all shut down that are here right now, and you'll init brand new ones that will show on the map. And showing on the map shows shows that it's just kind of like on deck. That's what this stuff is about. Let me show you the 3 icons that all groups have. I'm just going to walk through them one more time. This is on with the brackets only, and by the way, I want to do this in colors, not brackets, but whatever. Can't get that to work yet. This is on only when there are units in play in relation to this component. This is on when there are no units in play, but there could be. It's like connected to other units that have units in play. And this is on just like the bracket up here, only when there are units in play, showing that there's stuff on the map. So, with that in mind, these 3 tanks can actually be, since they're mutexed on each other, only one can be active at a time, and their icons are only shown when they're active, we can put them right on top of each other if we want. Now, on a real mission, I wouldn't. I would put them in slightly different places, or they might even be in drastically different places. But this is what we're doing for this one. So now we're going to actually start starting things. So after I've initted everything, I hit just activate on this first tank. It's in play. In 20 seconds into the mission, it'll be in play. Triggers that on success, triggers that on failure, triggers the AA on failure, and then we need to do these a little bit differently. On success, for the heavy tanks, it'll just go back to 1, and that's just to kind of restart the system. Like, you succeeded, you won. It's conceivable this would hit another button that would be like points or something, who knows. Or just move you to a totally different section of the mission. Failure will go down here, which is the same as there. And then here for success, we'll bump up to here. And for failure, we'll go to here. We just made this run infinitely. This will go forever and ever and ever until we call shutdown to them. If we call shutdown, they'll stop. So, because shutdown turns off that ability to report success, and can make things just go away no matter what. That's the point. Is like, hey, we moved, like, what if there's a whole other section of these that are doing something, and when they succeed, these guys no longer have any point? Shut them down. Take them out. Put something else in there. Okay, so we put the tanks in place, but we haven't set what kinds of units they are or set them exactly, and we'll do that in just a second. The column units don't even have any other units with them, and again, that's just for the speed of display of putting these out. And then we're going to start up the random on both of these. Now, right now, I am starting all of these units at once, but that just means that this is one group of 4 airplanes. This is one group of 4 airplanes that will be active at a time. It'll be different groups, but it'll be only 4 active at a time working together. This is 14 tanks. By the way, that is a very close SPS difference. 14 tanks is basically worth 4 airplanes. So you can kind of swap these out at will for performance. 14 cars are worth 14 tanks. The artillery that's here is different. Artillery seems really cheap, but when you put a certain amount in, it's hard. I haven't done enough tests, honestly. There's a certain amount that when you hit it, everything's dead. It's a pretty big number. Like, if you put in like 120 artillery and nothing else, you're kind of in trouble. But weirdly, if you put in like 100 artillery, you can put in some other units and you're fine. Way over 120. It's strange. Airplanes kind of behave the same way. You break certain numbers. It's like around 26 or so for. And let me caveat all this. This is on the VM running the D server that I'm doing this on, and that is not optimized at all for this game. It is 10 cores that are not fast, and this game wants 3 cores, maybe 4 cores that are very fast. All this did was start up the artillery. Every time you click this, it'll repair the artillery too, but we don't really care. And we're just really putting this crap in here to put it in here. Boom. Boom. Like here. There it is. Wow, it's so dangerous out there. Actually, it is. It is pretty dangerous. Cool. And so now we're going to do... I also grouped these with the tanks, these 3, together like this because of their display icons. They're supposed to be put together like this. So I think I'll have the columns come down from here. Yeah, we'll put the AA will kind of cover the columns. That's actually kind of fun. That makes the columns way more fun than they normally would be. Like just regular old trucks by themselves. Then since this... So wherever you put these control units is where they're like informational stuff displays on the map. So we'll put the air-to-air units right there. We'll put the 2-seater units right there. And since these guys are all named up, just like the tanks, I can group them up with no concerns. Again, these can be set up differently if you want them to. This is really just for ease on my end. Put the train right here. We could put in like some buddy airplanes. In fact, I would probably use like a proximity trigger for that with some buddy airplanes coming in, but we'll probably save that for another video just for length. So we're all set up here. kind of goof this up by making it hard to select the things I want to select. And then we put all of this into one group. Call that control, because those are all the controllers. And then we can start. We're done with the boneyard now, so I'm going to get rid of it. And now, because we've cleaned everything up, it's not totally insane in here. It's not great, but it's not totally insane. Oh, we're going to make it even better, actually. We'll group up the artillery. Fighters. Train can stay. Huh. Wait a second. Aha. That's funny. Sorry about that. You probably didn't see what happened, but I accidentally grouped up the bombers with the control. Like, as in the actual units. The units are in these. So I ungrouped control. Regrouping this. I mean, of course, I want you to guys know, like, a whole bunch of the stuff that I'm doing right here is actually convention that, like, is just like how I do it. Knowing that this system is fundamentally just modules that accept that interface. It's a little bit more than that, but like really, if your module accepts and adheres to the rules of not reporting success or failure until it's out of the mission, accepts activate, accepts init meeting displays, starts displaying stuff on the map, and accepts run and shutdown, you can make your own units that fit into the system in the larger context. So the reason I group these guys up like this is to make things like really easy on the tree over here. So now I have fighters, train, trucks. So I'm going to set up actually the trucks first because they're the hardest and longest. Take them down here, turn them into the kind of units we want. Those are AAA trucks. We don't want that. We'll just do ZIS-5s because why not? I think ZIS-5 is the open truck. I always forget which one's the open and which one's the covered. And then we'll have them both come down through this area in general. Put these guys on this road. And these guys on this road. See, they're already done. Just kidding. These guys you actually have to put on the road. You're going to put them on the road for real. So part of the reason I didn't set any units until I had everything kind of organized and what I was going to do is it lets you think about it in general without wasting this time if you want to change it. Additionally, as you could see, when in their default state, they're very easy to change what kind of units they are and stuff. This very last stop causes it to go off-road and kind of stop somewhere. Like, you generally put some statics right there for it to like kind of land at, like the support group's coming down. I'd also like to point out that like how this column works. Since I spawn everything, and that's, you gotta spawn everything to make this thing be infinite. These are actually every single unit is entirely independent of each other. They aren't actually grouped. And so I just mock it by having each one just go here, and as soon as they get here, they get called on road, and they get sent to their next waypoint, which if we zoom in on these is actually all those units' waypoints. So you check that out. You do have to put, this is general mission building crap, you do have to put these waypoints pretty well on the road. You definitely want to put a waypoint at every single road intersection that you run into. And be unusually careful, or especially careful, around cities. Because they'll go just barely off the road if the waypoint's just barely off the road before they pull back onto the road. And in cities, there's all kinds of buildings to run into. Additionally, the way that these are set up is that they do a panic stop if any one of them gets hit and destroyed. So know that. So see, now I have their stop place totally covered. In a city, that's dangerous. But my only alternate choice with the capabilities of this mission builder is to have them do just a straight up stop on the road when one of them dies, which is okay-ish. But the panic stop is good because it's really easy to hit units in a perfect line. In fact, somebody playing one of the testing missions was like, dude, too much stuff is in a perfect line. And like, they're totally right, but it was like that for testing. Real mission will kind of separate things out. So I want to keep the panic stop, but the panic stop does have the problem of if you get a panic stop in a city, the cars might just run into a building and then continuously knock each other out. But that's kind of the best I can do. It's kind of the best. Maybe there's a better way of doing it. I haven't come up with it. So you're kind of seeing what a lot of the purpose of the system is. The idea is that all you have to do is think of things conceptually, like what kind of units do you want, and then set what kind of unit it is by literally just changing it, you know? Like, let's just add something to this. We'll give him another piece of artillery. Why not? Like, just to show that you can just change it. The trains just end wherever the last stop is, so we'll pull it in way close to the city. Because I'm realizing I did this super short. But fortunately, trains, like, actually you don't need anywhere near this many waypoints unless you move the train very, very far. But the way that the system works, and this is definitely a not positive, but I couldn't come up with a better way around it, is that these little units are difficult to change their waypoints, kind of. Not impossible by any means, but not super easy. And so a few of them have a few more waypoints than you would normally use, but like, so what? That just takes an extra second with configuration. So here I'm just walking through and changing these things to match the words that I put on them, right? So like, they're lag 3s. Now I want them to come over the city, and I'm just going to leave them like that. They are flying at about 1,500 meters. We'll put in the yaks a little higher, why not? This is a testing mission, so like, it's not... What this did on the Rise of Flight was as soon as you flew over Lille, it just gave you a random fighter. One single random fighter. Let's move it up in size. For each one you killed. This one will just keep cycling them in. Oh, what were these? LA5s? And why not? We'll go ahead and let the LA5s dive in on us if we want. We might be lower. We might be smart and be higher in the air. So now we'll do the multi-seats. And this is a difference from the Rise of Flight 1 too, in that on Rise of Flight the multi-seats came in considerably outside of the battle zone. I'm going to put these guys in it though. We'll leave those L2s as they are. I think they have their I think they have the 4 100s. Make these PE2s. And how about we give them the 10? Not that they're going to be bombing anything. I haven't put any German targets out there, but whatever. And we'll raise the PE2s though. These guys do come back and land, so that's something that I have to set, which we'll do here in 1 second. And then these guys are the second set of L2s that I'll give rockets to separate them out. And we'll leave them low. Okay, and now we'll set up the tanks. I mean, we are absurdly close to done. We're probably a little bit long here. Where does it show me how long this has been running? Maybe nowhere. Or maybe I just don't see it. So these are, initially we're looking at the light tanks. So I'll put in some oops. I'll select all of them, don't I? Put in some T-70s. Heavy tanks. So yeah, like I was saying, one of my conventions is how I do this procedurally, one thing at a time, throughout the entire mission. If you wanted to take one single unit and set it up all the way, and that was how it worked for you, like, sure, have a blast. That doesn't matter. You don't have to do it like this. And so these guys I'm actually all going to have move exactly the same way, so I'm going to grab them all and move them all at once. That's all 3 heavy tanks, light tanks, and anti-aircraft trucks. So I just want to put them right there. Like, who cares? Now, we just have these fighters to finalize. And what that really means is let's pick an airfield for them to land at when they're done. Let's have the single seat planes land over here. I find I can be a little bit loose with the landing thing, and it hits the landing pad. That's not entirely true. Sometimes you have to be really precise. And there's a really odd thing with the landing. This is the land command, by the way. And these planes do this cool thing. I built up this little thing in here that's like it's like a waiter and a sequencer all in one. So like it waits for all the aircraft that are still alive. It understands when they're dead to get back here, and when they do, then it starts the landing procedure, and they land in sequence. I have a big sequence for taking off, but there's two problems with it. Problem number one, which is actually probably the largest of the problems. No, it's not. They're both pretty equally bad. Have these guys land right here. It's going to be great. And, since I already set their units, I'm going to tilt them to be interesting. So, sorry. Problem number one is that landing is incredibly performance expensive. Or taking off is. Landing is a little bit, but it's not bad at all. It's not really anything to complain about. Taking off is absurd. Like, you can't have more than just a few planes taking off at once. But the other problem is that, like, since all of these are actually individual units, they're not grouped because they're spawned. I can't spawn a group. I can't make formations. I have to, like, control them by carefully setting these waypoints. And you can change these to be echelon and stuff by tilting them. Although I often find it's a lot more successful to do things like this. So see, like, they're here and they're in a perfect abreast, and now they're in an echelon. Dig me? Because of how they move. It's the quickest way to do it normally. Often the prettiest as well. So I think, since they're in those groups, I can't put them in a formation on my own, which means I built this insanely complicated thing where they spin around on these waypoints until they get close to each other, and then they can pull out all at this one juncture and form formations. And it really does work, but it takes about 15 minutes for a group of planes to get in formation. So, like, it's pretty purposeless. Can't really use it. Okay, so we're done, I think. Let me just double check a couple things to make sure I didn't forget anything. Everything starts. Yeah, everything starts. Did I start the artillery too? I did. Okay, yeah, we're good. We're good. We're gonna save it. Bounce on out of here. We're just gonna head straight in. I don't have my track air started. And also, like, you wouldn't be able to hear me over the aircraft, so we're not really gonna fly. We'll just let it go forward. But then we'll just see that all the things are there and that it works the way that we want. And we'll look at the map really quick, and that'll be the end. So I really hope that you guys stayed with me through this. Sorry if it was a little bit long in this instance. But this is kind of the beginning of really starting to build up complicated things and building up, like, missions that are actually, like, you know, worth it. I'm sorry, I'm so used to going into multiplayer. Aw, crap. Oh, there it is. Sorry, the way that these things get named, and then it's not the name of the file that you saved, it's the name of the mission. Which, by the way, is terrible in my opinion. I understand why it's done, but, like, it's really difficult because you can end up with just, like, you have to save the missions under different names at pretty much every time you save it, or you have this chance of, like, totally jacking up all your icons. I have no idea what's going on there, but it just happened to me enough that I never save a mission. I save it by one name, and I never load it without saving it by a different name. So here we sit in it at no time, because this is single player. No time has passed. There's nothing on the map except for these guys, which always start that way. Cool. So we're in the mission. I let my dude fly away. Exactly where we are. Oh, here, I know what to do. Cool. I also have a bunch of collections of statics. Oh, look at how great my placement of that artillery was. But this is one of the things that this mission, like, is good for, or this setup is good for, is I'm like, yeah, okay, so I did something stupid. All I have to do is move them around, and they're still functional and doing the right things. Okay, so we should be pretty close to some units getting started. Yeah, check that out. So see, here's our group of tanks. And it should start with a light tank, so these should be T-70s. And if they're not, we did something wrong. And they are here. Sorry. This is a tedious way to get there, but we'll get there. Oh, here, we'll look at their cars while we're at it. Look at those, S5s. They are the uncovered. So see, these guys have been designed for moving along. Oh, this is going to end on us. Crap. Well, let's look at the map before it ends. Ah! Okay. It's terrible. Why did I die? It must have lost my, autopilot. Oh, it did. Did you see that? Auto level on. Okay, good. Stay that way. Unfortunately, now we have to wait the 20 seconds for the battle to start again. And I'm not going to wait watching the map. This is another thing. The new feature with the icons being able to turn on and off in the map is A, the greatest thing in the universe. B, troublesome because it's buggy. It causes the client to crash sometimes when there's icons changing on the map. At first I wasn't sure that that was the cause, but then I made some missions that did nothing but changed icons on the map pretty quickly, and it crashes all the time. So, now let's see how things have started. And they have. So it shows on the map now, if you saw before there was nothing except for these two, it shows that it started the light tanks, the trucks, the Lag 3, and the L2B. If you remember, these guys started randomly, so it started the first one on the fighters and the last one on L2s. And now we can go in here and see how they are. So the tanks are a tree, and it shows which one is active of the three that could be active. The trucks are just all by their little lonesome, and the... Oh, I must have died again. What? I don't understand what's going on here. I really just wanted to show you this last bit. Oh great, I just saved them all, so big deal. Okay, this is like totally annoying. This is actually part of the reason you saw me go to multiplayer is I always test in multiplayer because the death of me doesn't mean anything. Also, the mission continues running whether or not I'm playing it or not. And it's like, since these missions, like, the big test ones run 9 hours, I think you get the idea. Okay, cool. We're all started up. Now I will show you the map. So we have the tree here. So if these light tanks succeed at their mission, which in this case is pretty simple, they just make it to the end and come back. Then it becomes heavy tanks. But if I go down there and manage to kill them all, then it becomes, which would have a great deal of trouble in the 202. Then I get to go down, then I get AAA trucks. Trucks just sit there by themselves, they restart themselves. So see, it started differently this time. Thank you, random. Lag 3, Yak, LA5, with the Yak being active, L2, PE2, L2, with the PE2 being active. When these guys die, these guys come active. When these guys die, random. We go right back into the game for just a second. And look at these planes. Make sure they're all correct. Those were the Yaks. Perfect. So they're coming over, and I'm sure that my 202 would be in trouble. So I hope that you guys have fun with this. I hope that this was informative. I know I probably talked a little quickly, but I really, really wanted to get this information across. This mission, this QMB, and the last QMB are really the fundamental QMB style use of this system, are really the fundamental components that are used to build up the big complex missions. And I hope that was clear. If not, please feel free to ask any questions, and take care. See you in the skies.